Hello. So, it's the second episode that I'm uploading on the 8th of January. This is the promised episode where I go into a little bit of the finances of this renovation project. What things are costing, approximately, and where the money's coming from all this. All right. So, I'm going to pull up the... well, I've mentioned this once before, but... we didn't hire the cheapest contractors that we could have. We did not go with the lowest bidder. We actually went with what I gather is one of the most expensive and one of the best contracting firms in Medicine Hat. We did that because I wanted all the negative surprises up front. Okay, I wanted not cost overruns. I wanted cost underruns, and I'm told that. And I'm led to believe, really, that this contractor, well, the odds are best with this contractor versus any other. So the budget just kept growing and growing and growing as the list of things that I wanted done just kept growing and growing and growing. So we ended up with a budget that had general work. General work included everything to do with walls being removed and altered, and then also new drywalling put up. And then cabinetry. We went custom cabinetry, so that means they have to build it in shop, paint it, and then install it. What they're calling millwork and finish carpentry, don't ask me exactly what that is, and appliance installation, though, in fact, I think I might just install all of our appliances ourselves. So the last and final quote that I got had all of that, including the appliance installation, coming in at $32,900. And then he had sub-trades for electrical, plumbing, countertops, and ceiling. And for that, he had $9,400. Then he adds a contractor fee, so 10% on sub-trades. My understanding of this is that whatever the sub-trades are charging me for this project, it's less than they would charge me if it was for me. So he gets a 10%. He gets 10% from me to reflect that. So that made the total estimate $44,240, and that did not include GST. So it didn't include GST, it didn't include flooring, didn't include appliances, backsplash, or paint. Right, so that's, yeah, so $44,240 plus everything that I just mentioned. So we're about up to $50,000. We bought a good range, we bought a good microwave. About 2 years ago, we bought a new fridge. So I'm not including, because it was so long ago, I'm not including the new fridge as part of this project. Strictly speaking, it probably is, but for the purposes of budgeting, I'm not. So yeah, so if you take into account the good ring, we bought we bought on a Black Friday sale. We bought, which I think I've mentioned before, we bought a Samsung dishwasher and we bought a Samsung range, and because they're both the same manufacturer, we saved money. We saved money because of Black Friday, and then we saved money because I put it on. I bought from Costco, which then gives me some percentage of the total purchase back. I think 2%, something like that. Not including the cash back though. The range was, I think it was $2,200. Dishwasher was about $800, so that's up to $3,000. And then our microwave was about $500, so up to $3,500. Okay. So that puts us at 47, about 48. Okay, once we've had that. Then flooring, 48.5, because I had to buy the flooring. Oh, and then the sink, we're up to about 49,000. And then ceiling fan, not too expensive. Some chairs. We're at about $50,000 so far. Okay. That probably should include the backsplash and the paint. Yeah, we're at about $50,000. So about $50,000 plus GST. So that puts us at $52.50. Oh, windows not included. We decided to do the window after the fact. The window will put us at, by the time it's all said and done, $55,000. So that's the ballpark figure. That, however, doesn't include that I did a lot of the demolition myself. I don't know exactly how much money I saved by doing, this demolition myself. But I'd say a conservative estimate would be $500, and a more liberal estimate at $1,000. So that doesn't change the overall picture significantly. We're still at about, at about 5250, maybe closer to 55. Let's say 55,000. Okay, so where's all this money coming from? Well, my husband and I, we are not wealthy, but we're very thrifty, and we go without a lot of things. So what is our household income? Well, between the two of us, let's see, we're taking in between 110 and 115,000 a year in income, and that is, of course, pre-tax income. So that helps. What helps, though, is that we don't have kids. We also don't drive new cars. I have a 2006 F-150 that's completely paid for. My husband has a 2013 Ford Fusion. We paid cash for that. So we have no vehicle payments as of the moment. I do have a transportation fund. I'm putting in about, at this point, because my truck's getting old, I'm putting in about between $6,000 and $7,000 a year in my transportation fund. But that is not a commitment. Like, if push came to shove, we actually could sacrifice that. My husband and I, we max out our RSP contributions every year. So that means we're putting about $10,000 into retirement every year. And we are paying off our mortgage faster. We're on a track to discharge this mortgage within 15 years of the start date, which was 2015. And we're doing this with extra payments. We make an extra payment once a month. So why am I going to all this? Well, number one, even with the salient points of my budget covered right there, and that is to say, we're making big, even though, by the way, I'm part of a defined benefit pension plan, that's the gold standard, and my husband's part of a nominal pension scheme. Even though we're doing that, I'm still making big retirement, like saving big for retirement, quite aggressively. But even though that's in our budget, and even though I'm making sizable contributions to a transportation fund every year, and even though we're making mortgage prepayments, we still have money left over to renovate this house. We already have, by the way, a 6-month emergency fund. We still contribute a little bit every month, but we don't have to put big payments in towards that because that sum of money is already there. And we have a $10,000 home maintenance emergency fund. So we don't have to build that up. So that really does leave us on a monthly basis. That leaves us with about $1,000 to put towards home maintenance if we want to be aggressive about it. That does mean that, it actually doesn't mean we couldn't travel. Even with everything I just said, actually, we could spend a few $1,000s a year on a vacation if we chose to. We don't. We spend that few $1,000s we could spend on a vacation. Instead of putting it towards that purpose, at least at this stage in our lives, we're very generous at Christmas time. My parents, I pay for snow shoveling for them. My nephew, I put a few $100s into his RESP. We just do a lot of these things. Each one of them a few $100s, but nice gifts to people. So we don't travel at this stage in our lives. And so what we've done over the last approximately 2 years is, between the two of us, we've saved over $25,000 in cash. Okay? And so that's not quite, it's around about 50% of the total bill here. So where's the rest of the money coming from? We are borrowing that. And that's going on our home equity line of credit. And that doesn't thrill me. And my philosophy is that a kitchen renovation, it's not quite an investment. I'm reticent to call this an investment. The fact is, it's maybe this is a $55,000 project, but it doesn't increase the value of our house by $55,000. I think that probably it increases the value of the house $35,000. So that puts it into, well, that's better than a hamburger. Like that's better than a $55,000 hamburger whose value is gone the moment you eat it. But I wouldn't put it in the same category as stock in a bank, right? So the way I look at this is that if I'm spending $55,000, but $25,000 of that is cash, the gap is 30. Well, the value of my home is increased by 30. So I mean, that's one of the ways that I can justify this, that I think this is responsible. Here's another way. It's also that, well, people shouldn't forget that if you're putting something on your home equity line of credit, your bank actually could call that loan at any time. Now, banks have never done this, but they actually, in theory, could do it. Actually, and sometimes cases they do. Like if your finances change and your bank catches wind of this, they might pull that on you, right? If the bank were to call our loan on that home equity line of credit, we actually could pay that loan off. I mean, it would be difficult. We'd have to discharge emergency funds and maybe go into our retirement savings, but that would not bankrupt us. Okay? Same situation if we lost income. We actually could discharge that loan in its entirety if push came to shove. And I think that that is an important precaution we've taken, because what that means is that this should not sink us. Okay? So, but as I said, there will be about $30,000 on our home equity line of credit. What is our plan for that? Well, the fact that we have a plan is another reason I'm doing this. I rounded the figure at about $1,000 a month that we put into the kitchen project. So simple arithmetic would tell you that that doesn't just charge $30,000 of debt quite in 2 years, but the figure is a little bit more than that. And so the bottom line is that in just over 2 years' time, even including interest, we will have this paid off. And that is if our finances don't continue to improve, which they have been up to this point and really should continue to improve. We'd still have this paid off in 2 years. And that's a completely arbitrary figure, 2 years. But arguably that's not long-term. Like this is not long-term debt that we are taking on that's going to just continue to accrue interest, right? And it's a heck of a lot better also than just simply having no plan. Or for example, doing what I think is very common, which is just saying, oh, it's a kitchen renovation, thus it's an investment, thus we can put it on our home equity line of credit, and thus we can just not worry about it. We can just be debtors our whole life. Yeah, that's evidently, again, that's not our plan. Oh, and one other point, if things got really bad in ways that like we're not predicting, and maybe we couldn't pay this off within 2 years, and it did need to go long term. Again, we're on a 15-year track for our mortgage. So like, what if this put us behind by 5 years? Well, that would still only be a 20-year mortgage. Most people are mortgaged for 25, so we'd still be 5 ahead of norm if that's important. But anyway. So yeah, I think that covers the salient points. It's a heck of a lot of debt. It's, well, very expensive price tag for all this. But we have a plan to pay it off, and we've already covered a lot of it already, and we have the money to discharge it if push came to shove. And of course, one last point is that this is something that's just really, really important to us. I mean, given that we're not traveling, and given that we don't have a lot of other things, we've just chosen not to spend the money on these other things. The kitchen is just it's a really big chunk of the main floor of this house. It really, I think, controls the extent to which we enjoy this living space, that it's quality. That living here is nice, right? And so it's a way of saying we really do highly prize what we're about to do. We think we'll get good value for it. And so we're quite sure that it's not a waste of money from that standpoint. So I hope that covers the salient points. But if anybody's watching this video and does have any more specific questions, then feel free to write it in the comments, or if you know me personally, to get a hold of me. So I will. Next episode will be on Monday when we do day 8 of the project. See you then.